I remember how excited I was to get my license on my 16th birthday. And so we made an appointment at the DMV, and I took my driver's test. I got a 92%, and so I got my license on my 16th birthday. Now I remember, as part of our driver's ed curriculum, we were shown films of pretty horrendous car accidents. And I think these were designed to scare us and to show us, hey, this is what can happen if you are an irresponsible driver. Well, I didn't take any of those warnings seriously. I mean, after all, that was them, and nothing like that could possibly happen to me. Well, I got my license in March, and 2 months later, in the month of May, I totaled my mom's minivan by hitting 3 trees in my neighborhood. I simply took my eyes off the road for a couple seconds, and before I knew it, I was in a neighbor's yard, having taken out 2 trees and being stopped by the third. I broke my nose in 3 places, and I still have the bumps here to this day, and severely damaged my ribs. One of the things that I learned from that whole experience, which is really going to be the theme of today's devotion and a little bit throughout the week, is the minute that we think that we are above temptation or immune to temptation is also the minute that perhaps we have taken one step closer to actually falling into that temptation. And so I'm excited to dive into the theme this week of what it means to overcome temptation. So we're going to start where we've been in 1 Corinthians 10, but then we're going to go elsewhere. So let's read 1 Corinthians 10, verses 11 through 13. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the culmination of the ages has come. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Now remember, right, Paul is dealing with a very immature church here. And one of the marks of immaturity is feeling a sense of invincibility towards certain things, as if they could not happen to someone, much like me at 16. Now, right before those verses we read, we see Paul giving some examples of other places in the Bible where people fell into temptation. And basically, Paul is saying, hey, these are examples for you that you don't fall into the same potholes they did. In other words, it happened to them. Don't think that you are exempt from them. Now, verse 13 is such an important verse when it comes to overcoming temptation. So I definitely encourage you to memorize 1 Corinthians 10, 13. The first thing we see here about temptation is that it happens to everyone. Now, I think part of where we are defeated by temptation at times is we feel guilty or we feel ashamed for being tempted. It's not a sin to be tempted, right? Jesus was tempted. So it's important that we don't feel singled out as if there's something wrong with us for feeling tempted, or that the specific thing we're feeling tempted with is a struggle only unique to us. But next, we see that God is faithful. And perhaps our tendency amidst temptation in some ways is to go about dealing with the temptation apart from God, right? Almost as if we feel like we cannot call upon him for help because we feel ashamed or we feel less than, inadequate because of what we're being tempted with. Now, are you starting to see a pattern? The part of the problem with the temptation isn't only the temptation itself, it's the way that we view temptation, and thus we are stripped of really a lot of our ammunition, a lot of our firepower in dealing with temptation. So we are going to finish verse 13 tomorrow because there's so much there. But I want to leave you with this question as we dive into temptation for the rest of the week, right? How are you currently viewing temptation in a harmful manner? And I would encourage you to ponder that, and we're going to dive right back in tomorrow.